Hello and welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. It's okay if Chris takes a little break. Sometimes we need to take a break. He said that his FAFO wood chipper is on vacation this week. We'll catch up in 2 weeks. Yeah, we definitely need a wood chipper around these areas when it's times like this and stories like this. Hey there, Jackie. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks everybody else who's here. Please don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share. I really do appreciate this. Stories like this really need to get out there. Thank you. In Isaiah 117, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take out the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. That's what I've been doing recently, and I've been getting out information, and it might be against some churches for me to go ahead and take matters and tell police informants, inform police when somebody like a pedophile has been messing with somebody, and I think it's only in our right. If you see something, say something. And no church is going to tell me it's wrong for me to have stepped in. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance of fair use. I'll tell y'all, this case right here, it's got to be a case, but there's got to be more to the show than this. This is about Charlie Johns, age 22. He married a little bitty girl named EUNICE WINSTEAD. She was 9 years old. This was 1937 in Tennessee. So remember, speak up. Still, he even lied. If he was in the wrong, why would he falsify her age on the marriage document, right, to get married? Why would he tell the parents that he's going to take her to buy a doll, okay, and lie to them? So here's the first part I want to share with y'all. And then I'm going to talk about child marriages and some of the problems that happens. Okay? This is from noquotient.quora.com. Psychiatrist at Psychiatrist 2001 to the present. This is him right here. This is Charles Johns. And this is, look how little she is. Look at there. Is that not sickening? Hey there, Steve and Danielle. Good to see y'all. She told her parents she was going out to get a doll. Instead, she got married. The child marriage that made America pay attention in 1937. She told her parents she was going out to buy a doll, but instead, she got married. In 1937, in Hancock County, Tennessee, a 9-year-old EUNICE WINSTEAD married 22-year-old Charlie Johns, a local tobacco farmer. He paid a preacher $1 to do the wedding, and they said that's the equivalent to $22 like 3 years ago, okay? He lied about her age to get a marriage license. She was still in 4th grade. At the time, this wasn't against the law. Tennessee had no rule about how young someone could be to get married. So I guess if somebody would have took your infant and married them, there's not a dang thing you could have done about it because there wasn't no law. That's the same precedence as they're saying. There was no marriage law, so if somebody wanted your 2-year-old or child and did that kind of stuff, it would have been all right. How crazy and sick is that, y'all? When the news came out, people across the country were shocked. Life magazine published pictures. The public was outraged. Because of this, Tennessee quickly passed a law saying you had to be at least 16 to marry. Other states did the same, but the new law didn't cancel old marriages. EUNICE and Charlie stayed married. They had 9 children. They were still together when Charlie died in 1997. EUNICE lived until 2003. She was 75. This isn't something from ancient times. This happened in America in 1937. And it took a 9-year-old girl to make the country finally say, enough. They're still not saying enough. There's 9-year-olds that's getting married still today. 10-year-olds that's getting married. I had one friend of mine who told me that, and I'm not going to give out her name, her privacy and whatever. There was a preacher. Her mother was separated from her dad, from the girl's dad, and he was violent. So the church went ahead and put her up, and so they thought it was merciful for the elder to put her up in a home that's right beside the church. Well, he ended up raping the little girl. She was 9 years old, and Mama said it's your fault, and she made her daughter, that was 9 year old, marry him. He was violent, he was abusive, and nothing can be done. Which we'll see more on this story, but this is a real case, and this is a friend that's still alive today who had to endure this. Somebody said this made my stomach turn. If some perverted had tried that on my daughter when she was 9, he would have been 6 feet under before she was 9 and a day. I agree 100%. He should be dragged by a horse, sick pedophiles. This is so disgusting, literally a child. Enough is enough. She was 9. I am assuming there was something mentally wrong with Charlie. No 22-year-old is interested in a 9-year-old child. Sadly, with Berger, some are, some like younger still. It's disgusting. And as it says, pedophiles aren't normal, and if they are an adult and want to cohabitate with a child, they are a pedophile. There are no degrees by which they can qualify as a pedophile, as the saying goes. So let's go on down to the next story. Stop sharing this page. So, can y'all tell me what y'all think about the story so far? Do y'all think it's sick and disgusting? So please let me know your thoughts, okay? So the next one I am going to put is, sorry, let me get that up here. Yeah, that makes me angry too. You are right. It's very important we get the word out. And this is how it affected this other story, right? Even though you can't see it to the right, I'm reading it on the left over here, okay? Mother defends child bride, New York mother. A marriage leads to a jail. There was a different person that married a minor, right? And that person got jail, right? Mother defends child bride, New York marriage leads to jail. In Sneedsville, Tennessee, February the 4th, Mrs. Lewis Winstead told one of the home folks today that all the fuss over her 9-year-old daughter's marriage to Charlie Johns, 22, was foolish because Charlie and EUNICE don't live together as man and wife. How does she know? How does she know they did or not? She wasn't there with them all the time, right? A pedophile's a pedophile. A predator's a predator, nonetheless, right? Because, yes, they were living in that home. It says, how does she know she wasn't there, right? But anyway, y'all see something funny about this right here? Hold on. So it's a EUNICE didn't know meeting. The Mountaineer mother told Mrs. Fred Sheets, who came over from Rogersville, 24 miles away, to ask some questions about the wedding. Okay, so you see this right here? What else do y'all know about Rogersville, Tennessee? Remember Little Summer Wells? I think about that case right there. They family get, well, not the family, because I think the family already knows. May the public get information, and may she get justice for what was done to her. And if she's still alive, please have her in a safe place. Mrs. Winstead asked Mrs. Sheets to correct some of the errors she said had been appearing in stories about the marriage, which was performed by a Baptist minister while Charlie and EUNICE held hands on a lonely country road on January the 14th. And why would you have to get married on the side of the road if you're really doing a marriage? That's like they're hiding. You know what I'm saying? Why can't they leave decent married folks alone? Decent married folks? Can you believe the mother said that? Why can't you leave the decent married folks alone? The 22-year-old and a 9-year-old girl. Why can't you leave them alone? Mrs. WINSTEAD said, referring to the hundreds of foreigners who had invaded the Mount Country to look at the little cabin in which blue-eyed Eunice is learning how to be a housewife. Okay, she's learning to be a housewife. Yes, they are cohabitating in the same bedroom. Excuse me, right? Ain't a man and a woman got a right to get married if they're in love? Yeah, but she's not a woman, right? She's a little girl, right? Whew. Mrs. Sheets replied that people were interested because Eunice was no woman but only a little girl, and that's right. Charlie ain't never laid a hand on her, the mother said. How do you know that, right? But I want him to make her mind, and I'll appreciate him correcting her mistakes. He's a good boy, as anyone can tell you. And what, okay, he owned a lot of property and land and all that. And so I bet he was paying the family a pretty good penny, you know. The law roughly shattered Stanley S. Baca's honeymoon. This is someone else's. With a 12-year-old Leona, Elizabeth Rocia, threatening the 19-year-old mill worker with prosecution for second-degree rape. A juvenile court ordered their separation less than 24 hours after their marriage was announced. Townspeople were shocked when the wedding was revealed a few days after national attention has been centered on the Tennessee mountain marriage of Charlie Johns and Eunice WINSTEAD. See, the WINSTEAD people, Charlie Johns, he got away with it, right? And that was a 9-year-old. But up in New York, they prosecuted the guy, the 19-year-old, for marrying a 12-year-old. Okay, so let y'all know on that. So what y'all think about the mother calling them, you need to leave the married couple alone? Leave the married folks alone. They got a right to be married. Leave them alone. They can be married, you know? No. Between a man and a wife, a husband and wife, you know? So let me get to some facts about education, about what happens a lot of times when. Okay, let me share this. Across the country, let's get it right here. And we want to thank NEA.org right here for this information here. Educators sound the alarm on the dangers of child marriage. The U.S. has pledged to outlaw child marriage by 2030, but that plan is not on track, leaving thousands of students at risk every year, says educator. Okay, I am disappointed in Tennessee because there was this law that nine states had, which they passed. Under no circumstances can anyone under the age of 18 get married. Tennessee did not want to adopt that law. Can y'all believe it? So there might be some loopholes that they could go under, some middle. And the problem I had when I went over with some of the states that had that under no circumstances, there's a big major problem. Major problem is they're not checking the people's IDs. They're not checking their birth certificates. They're not checking to make sure that these kids these grown-ups, adults, are actually the age that they say they are. So some people might be sliding under the radar because it's not being checked to see what the proper ages are. So they're just going ahead and letting them go ahead and say, like, I'm 18 or something like that, and they're going ahead and get married, and yet that could be a 15-year-old, 18-year-old. Who knows, right? Y'all need to do better than that. Y'all got the laws, and the laws are there for a reason. Do your job. Across the country, more than 314,000 minors were legally married between 2000 and 2021. Most were 16 or older, but some were just 10 years old. Look at this, see? Some were just 10 years old. There was another case in Tennessee also that was still around 2000 and something, though. So it was not even way back in 1930s, 1960s, 1970s, where it was a 20-something-year-old lady that married an 11-year-old boy in the state of Tennessee, and that was allowed. A 10-year-old boy to a 27-year-old lady, something like that. Child marriage, which is considered human trafficking by the United Nations and the National Education Association, makes minors incredibly vulnerable because they do not have the same legal rights as an adult. Educators from NEA's Women's Caucus are speaking out to educate others about the dangers of child marriage and what we could do about it. More than 20 years ago, Carol Yanity was a freshly minted teacher working with the 8th graders at a junior high school in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The school year was humming along until the third quarter when one of her strongest students started racking up absences and her grades started to slip. We reached out to her family and they told us that her grades didn't matter because she was going to get married soon and more than likely to withdraw from school, Yanity recalls. To me, it was heart-wrenching because she was so intelligent and such a leader in the class. And she was only 14 or 15. The girl's grades were so strong she qualified to move on to the ninth grade even though she missed the final weeks of 8th grade. But when Yanity checked the following year, the girl was not enrolled in high school. This wouldn't be the last time that Yanity and her husband, also a teacher, would see young teen girls drop out of school to get married. Across the country, more than 314,000 minors were legally married between 2000 and 2021. Some of them were just 10 years old, according to research conducted by Unchained at Last. We need to do a story there too, doing Unchained at Last. We did some, had them in there, but I want to get it out there about newer facts, new marriages, all the different child marriages in the different states and bring it into fruition. A nonprofit dedicated to ending forced and child marriage in the United States. Let me see what that says to the right over here. NEA stands against child marriage. Many national and international organizations, including NEA, Education International, and the United Nations, consider child marriage a human rights violation. The NEA resolution opposing human trafficking and child marriage, I-37, reads in part, the association opposes the forced marriage of children, which is a form of human trafficking. Exactly. That's what we're saying. They're trafficking our children, okay? The association recognizes child marriage and human trafficking as violations of human rights and calls for strengthened efforts to prevent and eliminate these harmful practices. The vast majority of minors who marry are girls, 86% says Unchained at Last, and most were wed to adult men on average of 4 years or senior. In many cases, the marriage legitimizes what would otherwise be considered statutory rape, says Deborah Sheehan, a retired educator from California. I think California is having a lot of progressive laws, but I was horrified to learn that it is one of the four worst states in terms of child marriage. There is no minimum age for marriage here. Oh boy. Wow. I kid you not. You see that? There's no minimum age for marriage there in California. Do not go over there and marry y'all, you pedophiles. Don't you dare go over there and marry our kids. I hope you get busted for it. Sheehan and Yanity are both members of the NEA's Women's Caucus, where they learned about the realities of child marriage in the United States. We want our fellow educators to know that this is going on right here in America, says Sheehan. As educators, we can't turn our heads and ignore it. Dangerous conditions ahead. Youth under the age... Sorry, it's going too fast. Too much. Under the age of 18 enter a perilous situation when they are wed. In fact, child marriage is considered a human rights violation because a child is legally under the age of consent, explains Maureen N. Eek, an English professor at Central Michigan University. And we're going to give you examples in here on why, okay? Child marriage is a traumatic experience that robs a child of human rights, dignity, education, and a future well being. Moreover, the child has no legal protection. For instance, if a child tries to escape or flee from a marriage, they often are returned to the adult spouse. Minors do not have the legal rights of an adult, including the right to enter a legal contract of their own. That means they cannot obtain a credit card, sign a contract, consent to medical treatment, engage a lawyer, or get divorced. So, with her being a child and he's being abusive to her, she cannot go in there and talk to the um, doctor by herself if the spouse says, she's a child. If a minor is suffering abuse from a spouse, she often cannot access any community resources for help. An unaccompanied minor would typically be turned away from a domestic violence shelter. See, that's what I'm telling y'all. For example, minors who leave home are considered runaways. They can be charged with an offense, but more often they're simply returned to their abusers. You hear that? So, a child, if you're trying to run away from the situation of being abused, you could be put in jail. It's a crime, right? You can be charged with an offense. Then they return them to the abuser that's actually really violating them, right? Same thing that was me when I was rescued out from underneath my house. The guy says, "Look at all the bruises all over her body. Look, she was beaten bad. I got her out from underneath the house. She was in a wooden box left to die. And I got her out. Look at these. Please don't return her home. Please get her medical attention." No, they didn't do that. Instead, they returned me home to my evil stepmom. The child's parents no longer have legal custody of a married child, meaning they no longer have the right to decide whether the child lives and cannot make decisions about the child's education or medical care. All those rights lie in the hands of the spouse. Often, child marriage leads to forced parenthood that child brides are not ready for, which can harm their physical and mental health. And there's no question that early marriage puts a child's education at risk. It says 50% females who marry before age 19 are 50% more likely to drop out of high school. Females who marry before age 19 are 50% more likely to drop out of high school than their unmarried counterparts, and 4 times less likely to complete college, according to 2020 study from the International Center for Research on Women. Those who marry before age 16 are also more than 30% more likely to live in poverty, the research shows. A lot of people think child marriage is really only a problem in developing nations or places far from there, but that's not true at all, says Deborah Sheehan, who raised this issue with the delegates in 2025 NEA Representative Assembly in Portland, Oregon. We aren't going to be able to change any of this if we are in denial that it is a problem in the United States too. Progress in ending child marriage. Carol Yanity still wonders what happened to the promising young girl who vanished from a classroom decades ago, but at least she knows that the same scenario won't play out again. Hey there, our bucket list. Pennsylvania banned child marriage in 2020 with no exceptions. That means that no one under the age of 18 can get married in the state. The bill passed the Pennsylvania House. These that's in the blue, that's all the ones that agree to that, okay? To no exceptions, no one under the age of 18. Look at all the other states here. There's exceptions to the rule. See, even in Tennessee, there's exceptions. Florida, there's exceptions. Alabama, all these. Look at all the different states right here. That's exceptions, right? That means no one under the age of 18 can get married in that state. The bill passed the Pennsylvania's House and Senate unanimously, and then Governor Wolf promptly signed it into law, making Pennsylvania the third state to ban child marriage, following Delaware and New Jersey. See, and there's what's showing red right there. It says child marriage remains legal, because there's exceptions, okay? Let me see what you said. Hold on a minute. Let me get this bigger so I can read it. I'm sorry. California, Mississippi, have no minimum age at all, relying on, oh man, instead on judicial approval of parental signatures. Exactly. Isn't that scary? Knowing that? Thank you for pinpointing that out. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, Chris, oil up that wood chipper. That's right. I love you saying that, bucket list. Well, he's not there today. He said that he's on vacation a little bit. He's got to take a break from it. I respect that. So there is no federal law banning child. The U.S. signed a global effort spearheaded by the United Nations to end child marriage in 2030, but it's extremely unlikely that the remaining 34 states will introduce and pass laws to end child marriage. It went before Tennessee. It went there for them to approve it, and Tennessee refused to sign it, y'all. Tennessee refused to sign it. We need to write our legislators in all the different states and get that. Save our children, protect our children, y'all. We're tired of it, okay? Y'all want to say that the legal system wants to say, hey, we protect our children at all costs, No, but they're letting predators out of jail. They give them a bond, right? They shouldn't even be allowed any kind of bond. You mess with a kid. No way. No way, Jose. Educators who live in states that still allow child marriage can take important steps to raise awareness and advocate for change. Speaking to your union colleagues about the issue and reaching out to people who represent you in the state legislature is a place to start. And if you currently teach a student who seems to be married, one of the best things you can do is advocate for her to finish school or get a GED before they become wives and mothers. Says Carol Janity. It would always benefit these girls to have a diploma. Okay, let's see what you have to say. Let me get them further down here. The federal government should have it across the board in all states and make it a law. I believe so too. Kudos on that. Who all believes with what she has to say, put a thumbs up or say, I agree. Please write that in the chat. Or we put hearts for her. So I'm trying to get that guy's name. Because I lost that percent story on him. So I want to go and get back to Wikipedia. See, they also have Married Young, the fight over child marriage in America. That's on PBS. Okay, let me get over here back to or share more of his story here before I get into the final argument. But I'm trying to show y'all how horrible that this is. And y'all want to know more about their story also, I'm sure. So the marriage of Sneedville, Tennessee residents 22-year-old Charlie Johns and 9-year-old EUNICE Winstead was a child marriage that took place in the state of Tennessee in January 1937. The event received national attention after Life magazine published an article about the union the following month. In response to Johns and Winstead's marriage, I got to turn it, sorry. State of Tennessee introduced a law setting the minimum age of marriage at 16 years old. Only the jurisdictions of Minnesota, Rhode Island, and Washington, D.C. introduced similar laws. The couple remained married after the Tennessee law was passed, and the marriage, they need to update this page because we know better than that now, right? And the marriage lasted till John's death. Okay, look at her. This is where she's washing a plate. This is where looks like he's reading to her, right? And this is Mrs. Lewis Winstead. That's her mother right here. Martha Elizabeth Harris. And she's teaching her how to sew. But back in 1937, a lot of times kids were being taught to sew and stuff. They were able. So reactions. Johns and Winstead's marriage was discovered by the press approximately 10 days after the wedding. It was then widely covered by American newspapers and magazines. The union was reported by the Times and Life magazines, along with the New York Times. It also inspired the 1938 film Child Bride. So you might want to look that up, okay? Johns avoided media attention, accusing reporters of making things up, and he did not allow any photographs to be taken of his wife and children. See, there's his wife, though, with him, right? I don't know who put those photographs of them up, but he didn't allow it, right? Okay. It says in response to Johns and Winstead's marriage, the state of Tennessee introduced a law. We see that right there, but it said the couple remained married after the Tennessee law was passed and the marriage lasted. See, it said they had 9 children. 9. On January the 19th, 1937, 22-year-old tobacco farmer Charlie Johns married his 19-year-old neighbor, EUNICE Winstead. The couple was joined by Baptist preacher Walter Lamb in Sneedville, Hancock County. Johns paid Lamb $1. See here, it's like equivalent to $22 in 2025 to perform the marriage. To get to the wedding without her parents' knowledge, Winstead told them she was going out to get a doll. Johns falsified Winstead's age in order to obtain their marriage license. At the time of their marriage, the state of Tennessee had no minimum age for marriage. Winstead's mother had married at the age of 16, and her sister, Ina, married at 13. Though the mothers of Johns and Winstead initially believed that EUNICE was too young to marry, they ultimately decided to approve of the marriage. Johns and Winstead's marriage was discovered by the press approximately 10 days, as we said that. Johns avoided media attention, did it do? So in 1937, piece published by Life about the case displayed a picture of Winstead and Johns at their home in Sneedville. In a news article published that year, the Knoxville Journal reported the Winstead family seems complacent over the future of the 9-year-old bride because Charlie, the bridegroom, owns 50 acres. So we see what here you go. He owns 50 acres of mountain land, several mules, and he's a good farmer. Another article in Newsweek portrayed Winstead sitting on John's knee. Reactions to the. I'm sorry, I wanted to throw up at that part. Hold on a second. Got to get my bearings. Thinking about him, her sitting on his lap. Sorry. Excuse me. If I don't hit y'all like that, I don't know what's wrong. Reactions to the marriage triggered a change to the law in Tennessee, forbidding marriage of individuals under the age of 16, even if they had parental consent. It provided for exceptions in cases such as pregnancy. I see where the person was that pregnant from that preacher or elder, whichever one he was, and that 9-year-old was forced to marry that elder, that friend of mine that I was telling y'all about. Well, later life, Winstead dropped out of school in 1937. Wow. 9-year-old, she dropped out of school in 37, the same year. She attended school for 2 days, but her husband pulled her out after she was punished for misbehaving. So she was misbehaving in school. And sometimes when you misbehave at school, that's a little thing that happens when you're a little rebellious because you're being violated. You know what I'm saying? State law was changed to reflect that married children were exempt from compulsory education. So they could be bad and everything, so they could not be spanked or whipped or nothing, but since they're considered married. As of 1938, the couple still lived with John's parents. They slept together in the same room. See, well, the year they started 38 sleeping together again. In December 42, at the age of 14, Winstead gave birth to the couple's first child. They subsequently had 8 more children. Johns ejected when his oldest child, 17-year-old Evelyn, eloped in 1960 with 20-year-old John Antrican. Why did he get upset when his oldest child that was 17 eloped in that. Wow, why? I mean, you went and married a 9-year-old. He alleged that Entercon had falsified Evelyn's age to attain a marriage license. Well, so did you. That's a pot calling the kettle black, is it not? Y'all falsified. That's right. And you're accusing. Wow. Johns and WINSTEAD remained married until John's death in '97, and WINSTEAD died in 2006. So she actually died. Uh, it wasn't too long after him, right? You look at all this. It's got different places, and I did click on some of them. Some of the places would not come up. Okay, so there's a lot of crimes against children, sexual violence, and legal culture in New York City, in New York State. There's also University of North Carolina Press. It's a book right there that you could order. Okay, so I want to go and show that to y'all. Okay, and when you go like this and you click on that, I don't know if y'all can see this page or not. And I'm going to go like this, go like buy from, just to show y'all, okay? Buy from Amazon per se, okay? And it's like crimes against children, sexual violence, and legal culture in New York City in 1880 to 1960, studies and legal history. And so it's like it's the digital price is 15.39, but if you want paperback, it's all the way at 39.99. Okay. So let me stop sharing that page. And let's get to the meat and grind of this now. Thank you for. It's very sick, ain't it? So let me get to the meat and grind of this. I think it's important to get this other information too. Forced marriage. Thanks to BBC.com news in the UK. I hope you are still here, Jackie. Forced marriage, girl age 5 among 400 minors helped. This was March the 20th, March the 30th, 2012. Forcing someone to marry against their will is already a criminal offense in Scotland. Punam Tajini, I don't know how to pronounce that name, Tunisia. A 5-year-old girl is thought to have become the UK's youngest victim of forced marriage. She was one of 400 children to receive assistance from the government's forced marriage unit in the last year. The figures have emerged of the public consultation into criminalising forced marriages in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland as it comes to an end. It says the figures have emerged as a public consultation into criminalising forced marriage in England, Wales, Ireland comes to an what? It's coming to an end? Amy Cummins, joint head of the forced marriage unit, said 29% of the cases it dealt with last year involved minors. The youngest of these was actually 5 years old. So there are children involved in the practice across the school age range, she said. To protect the child, the authorities have not disclosed details of the case or where the marriage took place. I want to tell y'all something about a personal. My mom had sold my sister. I think I named her Angelic in the book because I'm changing to protect the people in my life too. And she was sold to a police officer. So the police officer supposed to kept her till she was at proper age to get married, but evidently they were still going to be a couple, right? My sister ran away from the police officer, so Mama got her, and then she went and put her in an orphanage. She left her in the orphanage 3 days, and she went back to get her, and then delivered her back to the police officer. So she ran away again. So Mom got tired of her running away from the guy that I guess he probably bought my sister. And my mom kept her in an orphanage till she aged out. All because of the fact that she was mad because she kept running away from the person that bought her, so to speak. But the case comes as no surprise to the Iranian and Kurdish women's rights organization, IKWRO, which deals with more than 100 cases of forced marriage a year. We have had clients who are in their very early teens, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds. The youngest case we had was 9 years old, said IKWRO campaigns. Officer Banunu, I can't pronounce it, um, Banunula, something like that, Murphy. Now the consultation of forced marriages come to an end. IKWRO's hope it will become a criminal offense. Our organization is pro criminalization because we believe that it will empower victims to know that this is a crime, should stand up to their parents and stand up for their own rights, and it would enable them to come forward and seek help and say what's happening to me is wrong. I hope so because it goes beyond that. Because sometimes there's a lot of crooked people that's even in the government. Violent abuse. Author Sahim Samim Ali is all too familiar with the trauma of being a child bride. She was only 13 years old when she was taken to Pakistan by her mother on a holiday. As a teenager, she was excited about the trip, but when she arrived at the family's ancestral village, she discovered she wasn't being married to a man twice her age, whom she never ever met. The whole family turned up with a I-man and they forced me into this marriage. I didn't really understand what was happening at the time. I was only a child. There was no way I could say no. There was no support there whatsoever. 8 months later, she returned to the UK after suffering months of violent abuse. I was brought back to this country when I was 14 years old and pregnant, she said. She eventually fled the relationship, is now happily married with 2 children, and helps other young people at risk. Thank you so much, Samim. Excuse me. However, Samim is concerned that making forced marriage a criminal offense would deter victims from speaking out. I think it would be detrimental to the victim. The victims will stop coming forward because nobody will want to point the finger at their parents, she explained. The young person will not come forward if it's a criminal offense. They will not stand up in court and testify against their parents. Law change. In 2011, the Forced Marriage Unit helped deal with around 1,500 cases, but many more are thought to be unreported. It's like with the sexual abuse and stuff that goes on. They just say like 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 7 boys, or whichever the numbers are. When all the cases are not reported, there's no way to know the true numbers of these crimes. Sorry. Forced marriage protection orders were introduced in 2008 for England, Wales, and Northern Ireland under the Forced Marriage Civil Protection Act of 2007. Wow. A potential victim, Brandon police can apply for an order aimed at protecting an individual through the courts. Anyone found to have breached one can be jailed up to 2 years for contempt of court, although this is classed as a civil offense. Hold on a second, please. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. The Prime Minister wants a law to go further and ordered a public consultation on making it a criminal offense in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland to force a person to marry against their will. In Scotland, the breach of a forced marriage protection order is also a criminal offense in Scotland, punishable by prisons. Equalities Minister Lynn Featherstone said the government will now look at all the arguments. We will now consider all those views and responses to the consultation before we make a decision on the best way to protect vulnerable people. We are determined, working closely with charities and other organizations, doing a tremendous amount in this area to make forced marriage a thing of the past. A decision is expected to be announced later this year. How many of y'all think are going to be saying that they are not in a forced marriage because they've been threatened? Y'all know that? There's going to be a lot of people saying they didn't have forced marriage. More of this story. Young Asians favor honor code. Forced marriage law takes effect. That's 2011. Forced marriage. I'd rather be dead. UK honor crime levels revealed. The video playlist. I need to see her. New Yorker on Taylor Swift. I know. Okay. So I hope this gets out a lot of pertinent information to bring more awareness to it. Please be sure to get this out there. Share. Hi there, Carlene. Good to see you. Good. So Donna said hello as well. Trying to get this to scroll down further. Thank you. So please get this out there. Please like, subscribe, share. Get this out at Facebook on your lives, if you will. And know also that my next book is available at Amazon. It's called Unshackled. A couple things might be shocking in there. Some things are a little different than what's in my other books because this basically is more about the sex trafficking first, and there's going to be some sex abuse, which is stated in some of the other books, but it delves more into it, more on a personal level. Well, there's a couple more cases in there that I didn't talk about, but then there's the sex trafficking as well that is put in there. And sometimes you can read between the lines. And some things I did not feel I could talk about. Um, but if y'all ever want to talk to me one on one, which I did have an interview on YouTube, and you can look under my Darlene J. Clark, and it says more on some things that I was unable to write in the book per se. And a lot of y'all that follows Jeff Freedom had heard the interview and know the devastation I am talking about. And I want to thank you all for the people who support me, who stand up and try to help other people. Soon there will be a friend of mine that we've been friends for. We reacquainted, and she's going to come in and help me do some of the lives when she's got a chance. Y'all would love her to death. Her name is Jessica Green. She is a very good lady. She had put up with a lot of torture. But y'all, if y'all can look her up on my lives too and see if you can find Jessica Green Brown or Jessica Brown Green. I can't remember which way it goes. But please look up her story. She's got a devastating story, but she is standing up, and you would not know that she really went through the devastation that she went through. And remember that as long as we continue to speak up, it's pulling the power away from these people that are hurting the children. So please speak up, advocate. You might be a person's only voice. You might be their last chance of surviving. So if you see somebody walking down the street and you think they're dirty, that kid and all that kind of stuff, it's nasty. How do you not know that kids just escaped from somewhere trying to get to safety, trying to get help? The kid might actually needed your help, and you're right there looking at them. Ooh, stay far away from me, right? You don't know what these people are going through. You just don't know. So please stand back and stop judging. Please teach people the help me sign. Get it out there about the help me sign. Make sure they're taught that. Can understand the people that do such things and the parents allowing it. Exactly. Let me tell y'all something. In one of my chapters, if I could get my book, if y'all are game for me reading one of my chapters, I'll be glad to show y'all a little excerpt of it or whatever. Okay. So let me get a chapter. I'll be glad to share it with y'all. And no trigger warning. I'm going to have to turn on this light right here to be able to see. There's no overhead lights in my apartment living room. Okay. Hey, it opened up right to it. So I start out and I do a Bible verse, okay? So Shattered Innocence is chapter 11, Matthew 18, verse 6. But whosoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a large millstone hung about his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. That's Jesus himself saying it's better to drown yourself in the depths of the sea than it is to harm one of these little ones, than it is to cause the little one to sin, okay? At 4 years old, I was abandoned. My father, Charles, dropped me off at a farm that served as a congregation of those who would harm, exploit, and murder children. I stood there in my white dress with tiny blue flowers, watching as he drove away. I remember seeing a young boy, perhaps 3 years older than me, running with a look of pure determination. He had sandy, strawberry blonde hair and freckles on his face. He collapsed and died on the horse pasture fence. But I didn't put in there that I seen the blood on his chest, okay? I let that part out. I was shocked deep inside, but I could not react. I had been groomed from birth to be compliant, to never cry, to scream, or show emotion. My survival depended on being a robot who followed every instruction without question. Even as I watched him fall, I remained still. As an adult, the memories of that place began to surface, triggered by an interview where I found my voice to correct the description of the property. I realized then that the reddish stained painted fence post was likely chosen to hide blood, and the group of men I saw dismantling the fence was erasing the evidence of that boy's death. They were known to burn down barns to destroy DNA, rebuild them almost immediately to keep their secrets hidden. I didn't have hope then. My innocence was shattered by people in high places who acted with total impunity. I'm sharing this now because this is still happening to children today, and I will no longer remain silent. It has been in the news several times about these barns catching on fire multiple times. They sometimes rebuild it the very next day, and it's going to be a little shade lighter or darker than what the original color was. But I guess I think that people don't aren't going to notice. Some people noticed. The next thing I remember is being inside the barn. It was dark inside. The tall figure to my right was holding a shotgun or rifle to my side. I didn't put it in there, but it was actually my handler. This was the guy that was my handler that my daddy had sold me to. I don't remember when Dad came back to pick me up. I don't remember what was done to me inside that barn. I don't remember leaving. They may have given me a shot to make me forget. So I put the prayer, Heavenly Father, you see every gap in my memory, every part I cannot fully remember. Thank you for holding me, even in the unknown. I place those broken spaces in your hands. Heal the wounds I cannot name, and remind me that I'm still safe in your arm and you, even when the past stays hidden. In Jesus' name, Amen. So I wanted to give y'all a little excerpt of that to show that, yeah, I do have a little bit more, and it is kind of devastating to talk about. But this is what's happening. These child marriages is the same as child trafficking. Poor kids. That's why I tell my story. It's not for sympathy, but it's to bring awareness. So y'all please help me in continuing to help me get the word out there. Y'all free to share my story. And to say God bless y'all and thank y'all for coming. I can't understand it either, Peggy, how people could continue and parents allowing it. It's pretty bad when your parents are the ones that's actually selling you to these people. Like they sold me from age 2. Thank you so much. God bless y'all. Be a voice, please, for the voiceless.